Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. Probably the only place you get some real perspective on this. Florida family law that was signed by Governor DeSantis. I don't know what day it was. It was recently. And a whole bunch of fathers' rights groups, and everybody's all completely aroused about it immediately without reading what it says, without paying attention or anything like that. Now, I still haven't found the actual final language of the bill, but the consensus seems to be, and I say seem because I don't like specifically breaking stuff down until I see it. Like, for example, Missouri passed a 50-50 law a little while ago, and it said the presumption of 50-50, that's where they start. And then within the law, it said if the judge doesn't think it's in the best interest of the child to have 50-50, they can waive the whole law. So basically, the law was totally moot because there was a clause in there giving the judge all the discretion in the world to say, I don't have to follow the law, which makes for a stupid law. You don't have like a murder law that says, this is what murder is, unless the judge or jury doesn't really care about it. Then they can just find somebody innocent. That'd be asinine. That's how asinine these idiots are who people are so quick to think that everything's okay because it's written in a law, and they don't talk about the reality of application of the law in court. Like, I'm sure everybody was excited when the Constitution was signed. We haven't followed the Constitution 90% of the time in regular life. It's a great safeguard for when people don't. When somebody violates your constitutional rights, you got to sue them and go through a process to undo what they did in 5 seconds. The police violate your rights and walk into your home and without a warrant or whatever. Um, somebody kicks you off a sidewalk when you have a free speech right. Well, now you got to go through a lawsuit for a year to undo what they did. And most people don't have the balls, patience, or courage to actually fight that stuff, so they just let it go. And the more we let stuff go, the more we get a tyrannical government. And here we are, and all the dads are whining, crying, pissing, and bitching and moaning like a bunch of crybaby sissies, and they won't do anything about it because they don't have the balls to stand up or hang in there in the fight. And I've been watching for 20 years how all these fathers' rights groups come and go, whine and cry, protest one or two times, and then they quit. And that's been going on for 60 years because I can actually read and pay attention to history when most guys look at TV or they watch Divorce Corp or they see a law like this passing in Florida and like, yes, yes, finally we got some victory going on. Or look, Johnny Depp won his slander suit against Amber Heard. Fathers' rights are coming to fruition now. We're finally getting our rights. Or that guy from Dad Talk Today. I don't know what his name is, but he's a total sellout. All he does is talk about all the negative stories, the hopelessness that's out there for fathers. And he did a post demanding Johnny Depp speak out about his experience with Amber Heard. Johnny Depp has no obligation to fathers out there or men out there. And this guy is hoping that Johnny Depp is going to be the next fathers' rights savior. Meanwhile, I talked to the Dad Talk Today guy. I forget what his name is. I DM him and say, hey, why don't you have some positive stories of dads winning in court when you keep saying all these negative stories? You're just feeding the hopelessness. Then he blocks me. I didn't even say, hey, will you let me come on your show? I usually don't do that unless I start talking to somebody or like I don't want to toot my own horn or act like I'm thirsty for attention or desperate for whatever. It's only after I build a rapport with somebody that it might even come up, or I might ask, or somebody talks about a subject, and I'll say, hey, here's an answer to that. I can speak on it if you want me to speak on it. And then I might get invited on a podcast or a show. But let's get back to the Florida law. So let's start with number one, let's talk about the good part of it. One part of the Florida law is that, most states have a thing where if you go back to modify a parenting plan, you have to show a substantial change of circumstance. That's because they don't want everybody and their mama coming back to court every other week saying, oh, I don't like my parenting plan, or I don't like this. The courts would be overwhelmed and clogged up. So that's a legitimate concern of the court. Although there's plenty of abusive people who come back and get away with that. So they have a hurdle or a threshold or a standard to get over. You have to prove that there's some kind of substantial change of circumstance that happened since the last parenting plan was entered. Well, Florida has a law, or in the law, it apparently says that if you move within 50 miles of the custodial parent, that's a change of circumstance that opens the door for you to modify. It doesn't automatically give you a modification, but it opens the door, and that's considered a change of circumstance. And also, there doesn't have to be an unanticipated change of circumstance. Mike, that might mean that they might allow, okay, if your kid is going from elementary school or from toddler period of time and going into school, that's a change of circumstance. But that's an anticipated change of circumstance, usually, or that they've gotten older now. They're of teenage years where they can think more for themselves and pitch in and decide. And, most people get their hopes up for something like that. And that's something you anticipate. You know the kid is going to go to school. You know the kid's going to get older. That's anticipated. If you got, let's say somebody, like custodial mother, gets in a car accident and she becomes a quadriplegic and now she can't handle the kids. That would be an unanticipated change of circumstance. You can't anticipate that. You didn't see it coming. And it's a major change. So these are some good things that open the door for non-custodial parents. Now, the bullcrap that everybody's all hyped up about is that there's a presumption of that 50-50 is in the best interest of the child. That's all it says. It doesn't say you automatically get 50-50. It says the presumption is that it's in the best interest of the child. That's actually not true according to the science. The science says when the dad's not in the home full time, kids are at risk for suffering all kinds of dysfunction. There's no greater risk when a kid is with a dad, and I've known this for 20 years, and all these Johnny-come-latelys have come out with this stuff, and they just like posting these stats just to get clicks. They don't tell you how for a dad to get custody. They don't tell you what to do about it. They just say, oh, look at all these statistics. Dads, I've seen it several times on Trev Smoove, I think is both with a V. That guy keeps quoting, oh, is there a conspiracy, this and that? That dude doesn't have any answers. He just thinks he's going to bring awareness to it. Awareness never fixed a damn thing, you idiots. Oh, let me bring awareness to that. There's 300 million people in the country. Your channel that has 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, your entire audience that's listening is all the victims. It's not legislators or judges or anybody who has a position of power, has a change of heart that's watching your stuff. All you're doing is telling the people who already know that fathers are discriminated against, that they know it. I mean, if you go out and you got a megaphone on the street in the civil rights movement, you're like, hey, we're not getting our rights, we're not getting equality, and your audience is people of color or black people, they don't have any clout, they don't have any pull, they don't have any representation in Congress, or very little. So you're talking to the victims and not talking to the people in power who can change stuff. Martin Luther King shook hands across the aisle. Martin Luther King, or Malcolm X, was talking and confronting white people with perverted white supremacist views on talk shows, and he was destroying them in debates. Those guys were crossing the line. The Fathers' Rights Movement, all we're doing is talking to victims. That Trev Smoove video, all he's doing is talking to victims. And nobody's giving any answer. The Dad Talk Today punk bitch is talking to victims. This is what's insane about this. And the stuff, I look like the a-hole because I'm sitting there saying, what the hell are we doing? All we're doing is sitting around here and complaining to each other about how we're getting screwed. Why are we sitting here doing nothing about it except complaining to each other and whining and crying? I don't even want people to come on my page. I just posted on my YouTube channel how people come on my page and talk about their loser stories. Why are you even coming on my page and wasting any time and energy to tell your loser story? All you want, can I reach through the YouTube channel and give you a hug and spoon with you and cuddle and comfort you? No, I can't. But I can give you information that will help you turn things around and go rescue your kids. But my dumbass gender doesn't even want to think like that. We just want to think loser, loser, loss, loss. I got PTSD, woe is me. You know, any athlete, any champion, any successful business person has been through hell at some point in their life. And they say there's no excuses for anything and any reason to give up on your dream, to give up. Anybody can accomplish anything if they really put their mind to it. That's pretty much what any successful person says. Even if they came from an impoverished neighborhood, a bad family, they were abused when they were younger, or whatever. But not us in the Father's Rights Movement. Oh, this is hard. You know, I've been talking to people all week, and they're like, "Oh, it's not easy," or "It's." I watched comments on another page. I think it was I Am Mr. Let Go. He was talking about in his post about people getting custody. Dads, go get custody of your kids. It's not easy. That's hard. It's hard. The system sucks. So, are you that much of a soft-hearted little punk-ass bitch? Like, men on his page will talk so much smack. And men in general nowadays, they'll puff their chest out and they'll play the ego game and play Mr. Tough Guy. When it comes down to doing something hard, they don't want to do it. It's freaking enraging. And I look like the a-hole because I'm saying grow some balls and wake up and fight. And everybody loves a coach, a mentor, a leader, or somebody, or David Goggins or somebody says, stop being a bitch and get up and put your shoes on and get to work. That's all I'm saying. And I got answers here, and everybody's saying how hopeless it is because you took the loser out. You know, that same old analogy I always use. You know, you're fat and out of shape. You want to get in shape, and you're like, I want to get in shape. I did a couple of curls with some 10-pound dumbbells, and I'm still fat. The hell is wrong with you? You're going to have to do that every day for several months and change your diet, and then you'll see some change. You don't do and apply the things that I'm talking about that work for me, you will lose. And you're sitting there saying, oh, I lost, and the judge did the wrong thing, and the judge didn't look at the good guy. There's a bunch of innocent people in prison who had ineffective counsel or bad attorneys, or the prosecutor abused the system against them. You don't think that can happen to you? You just thought you're going to waltz into court and just the judge is going to, oh, you're telling the truth? Oh, thank you for telling the truth. Oh, she's lying? Okay, I'm sorry we even entertained that. You get full custody. You need to go to war and fight for your kid. And if you love your kid as much as you pretend you do, you should have the balls and the effort to back it up. And your kids should be worth the effort. 90% of guys do not fight hard in their custody case. And they trust their attorney and let their attorney do all the work. And they don't do any research themselves. You know, if a mechanic screws up your car, you go do research and look for a 5-star mechanic somewhere else. You put some effort into it. How come you don't do that with your own kids? I got all the tools, all the information, everything you need, testimonials left and right. You can do this. Anybody can do it. And people watch my videos and they're scared to even get a consult or even try. Even if you stick with an attorney, you'd be more informed if you get a consult with me and how to light a fire under your attorney. So all we do is just whine and cry and talk. So the 50-50 law says presumption of 50-50 that it's to the best interest of the child. But then it says that somebody can overcome that presumption by preponderance of evidence to show if they want to overcome that presumption, they have to prove it by preponderance of evidence. The standard of evidence in criminal court is beyond a reasonable doubt. The standard of evidence in civil court is preponderance of evidence. It's extremely low. It means 51-49%. Like, I believe you, I believe the dad, but I believe the mother a little more. So she wins. Like the O.J. Simpson case. He was acquitted in criminal court. They had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. Then in civil court, they proved more likely than not 51-49, a little bit of a seat. Like they could have believed O.J., but they believed the Goldman's attorney just a little bit more. So he was found liable for wrongful death in civil court. And so they own everything that he'll ever earn. That's why he moved to Florida to get out of the laws in California for that. So they have to prove very little that is, and then it also says that the court has to consider the totality of factors. So it's not an automatic, it's an easy to overcome. And then on top of that, there's the woman's trump card, domestic violence, child abuse, which they're already using now to get full custody when they have an advantage. How much more are they going to lie and use that when there's a 50-50 presumption? So it's a cool little move. So people who agree, they'll usually have to agree to 50-50, but if somebody wants to fight or lie to you, they are probably going to totally wipe out the 50-50 presumption. Don't get all aroused like all these fathers' rights groups, simps, and idiots and competent morons who don't know what the hell they're talking about. So I hate to bring the bad news, but that's the balance of it.